Hello everyone. It seems everyone has joined and there are a couple of people who are joining as well. So let's start with the training session. So welcome to Engine Markets. This is a training session for comparisons of the funds. So we are going to compare equity funds within the compare section and the screener section. So basically what we are going to do is we are going to first sort out the screener. We are going to select some categories and then we are going to onboard them to the compare section. There we are going to do comparative analysis. So this is going to be the roadmap of the training session. So I hope my voice is audible to you and my screen is visible to you. If it's not, then you can just ping in the chat and I will, hopefully I will just give you the reply. Visible. Okay, done. Okay, so welcome everyone. Let's start with the presentation here. So here we have the screener. So Engine Markets has a functionality where you can screen particular categories. So the main analysis starts here when you try to actually screen the particular funds. So what you can do here is you can select a particular category in a SEBI. So let's say you go for a particular equity category here. I'm just randomly selecting up mid cap fund. Then what you can do here is you can filter the AMCs as well. So once you have selected the category, you can see all of the mid cap funds are selected here and the display is shown to you. Then what you can do is you can filter the AMCs accordingly. You can click on the filter AMCs and select as many AMCs as you want. So sometimes you just want to select like 10 or 15 AMCs to actually analyze those particular funds itself. So you can just select all and then deselect some particular AMCs altogether. So now once I cancel this, then you can see the particular scheme name and you can also see all the parameters given here. So what I can do is I can filter the AUM as well. I can just ping in 1000 as the minimum AUM and I can apply it. So now as you can see, once I have applied it as a minimum AUM in crores, it is shown up to you. And all these mid-cap funds in the SEBI classification are shown here. Now we have one more thing which we can do while screening. The main thing here is to actually see all the columns which we have given here. So as you can see, there are multiple columns into this, column views, and we can also customize this column views. And there are ways to customize this column views. In the preset column views, we have given a functionality where you can customize it accordingly. Let's say you're interested more into like, let's say equity columns, as this is an equity mutual fund. So you can just click on equity columns. And then all the equity columns are displayed here accordingly. And similarly, what you can do is you can also select as many multiple column as you want. So these are all the manually updated column. You can update it as per your needs and then you can, it is displayed into the screener. So this is all about the preset column views. Once you have done the preset column views, you can sort it accordingly with an ascending or descending order accordingly with any columns. So let's say you go for a Sharpe ratio. So Sharpe ratio gives you a risk adjusted return. So higher the Sharpe ratio, the better is the fund accordingly. So here you can see that there are scheme names and then you can actually select those particular funds according to the risk adjusted return. So you can sort by any columns as you please and you can go ahead and onboard them to the compare section. So how you're going to onboard them to the compare section? You're just going to click on this particular button here, add to compare, and you can add them directly into the compare section. So let me add some of the funds here, couple of funds here. So once I add them up, all of them will be onboarded into the compare section. Once that is added, it will be displayed into the compare section altogether. And there are a couple of more things in the screener where you can actually utilize that. One is you can save this particular view. Now you're not gonna come again and select categories and filter the EUM again. You might want to save this particular view for the later analysis. So what you can do is you can just type in mid cap and just you can save it. Once this particular column view is saved, then you can directly see the saved columns, which I have saved before. and then you can directly click on those to actually access this column. We have also given a number of views you can view, so you can actually see that you can view multiple till 300 mutual funds can be viewed in a one particular screener. So that is what it for the entire screen section. You can download this entire data into CSV file, which is an Excel file, and you can even screenshot the entire column as well. So that is it for the screener. As you know, I have also selected couple of funds before. You can just click on the compare, and then you can see that some of the mid cap funds have been onboarded into the compare section. Now, the basic functionality of compare section is to give you an idea whether which particular fund you should go for when you are suggesting it to your client. So as you know, this is a mid-cap category in a SEBI class. You can just see the column views here. You can see the return columns. You can see the relative column, which is in pink. And you can see the holding column, which is in blue. So now what you can do is you can deselect, unselect the columns accordingly. And you can also select a particular benchmark for a relative column. As you know, these are all mid-cap funds. You can just click on a particular benchmark. Let's say I'm just going for a Nifty mid-cap 100. So you can see the axis return of a benchmark, the beta, the tracking error, the info ratio, and the correlation has changed accordingly according to the benchmark I have selected. Then what you can do, you can start analyzing them. So we have given a lot of things what to analyze. You can just click on this like standard deviation and then sort the funds accordingly. You can possibly click on axis return of a benchmark to actually generate an alpha, which is also called an alpha actually. So here you can understand that Kotak Emerging Equity and the mid cap category has given you the highest access return over benchmark. And then you can also come into the holding columns to actually sort in and see whether which particular mid cap fund is giving you the highest mid cap exposure or a small cap exposure. So it is according to the needs of an investor. You can directly choose those particular funds from this fund list itself. And by the way, we have given a lots of columns from fund list to last 12 months. So you can just go into this particular column and we can just explore those columns accordingly. So here we have also given some debt columns. So if you might go for a debt mutual funds, then this debt columns will be more relevant. Let's go for the next one. Let's go for the rolling analysis. So within rolling analysis, the main functionality here is we are backtesting rolling return data as daily, and we have a window. This particular window shows you 260. So this just means a 1 year in a one working period in a year. So basically it means that this is 1 year, 260. So what you can do is you can directly change the years accordingly just by multiplying it by 2. So if you, let's say, if you want to know the rolling window of 1 year in this particular start date and end date, you can just select it as absolute, and you can just select as at simple returns and run it. So once you just select this particular methodology, you can see the entire data analytics changes, and then you can sort it according to the average, volatility, highs and lows. Here you can see accordingly that Kotak Emerging Equity Fund in the mid cap range is having the highest average. And then accordingly, you can change the years. So for changing the years, you can directly just type in 520. So 520 is being 2 years, and you can just run it. And once you have run it, you can see accordingly the data changes. And once the data changes, you can sort it. So here you can see still Kotak Emerging Equity is having the highest average. Then you can go for a 3-year period to actually gauge in, and there is more possibility that you can even go for 5-year period according to the start date and end date as well, and then you can run it. So once you have run it, you can see the entire average. So here, as you can see, Axis Midcap has actually beaten Kotak Emerging Equity, which is having a lower volatility and having a higher high. So basically the main thing here is that it gives you an overview whether to, within this particular rolling window, within the start date and end date, which particular fund has backtested and a good average and a possibly minimum volatility. And here we have given a very differentiable methodology as well. You can choose it as absolute and annualized. If you click on annualized, everything is annualized as per the date. You can just run it. And then accordingly, you can also change the simple returns to it is point to point returns. So point to point returns just starts from the start date and the end date. So you can just click on the point to point returns, and that's it. The analytics will show you the entirely methodology of analyzed plus point to point. And we have also given the data downloading function here within Excel. You can just download it within one single click. Then we have 780-day rolling return distribution. So as per your need, you can just put in.
Slow here, please.
Okay. So
can you on the top you said point to point, and you're also saying this is rolling. So is it the rolling yield or is it the point to point yield?
Yeah, so we have a methodology here where you can actually where you can see the start date and the end date. So here you can just click on point to point. We have just updated here that point to point will calculate the rolling return period using the start and end prices only. So you can just change the methodology with this particular function. So for having a rolling return, I would rather suggest you go for a simple returns, and you just click on run, and then you go for a methodology of analyzed or absolute. But if either way, if you want to know the point to point, you can just directly click on point to point and gauge those returns.
Hi, Umair, this is Arnav. I'll just say a couple of things here. The difference between the simple and the point to point applies to the window of the rolling window that you're using. So in this case, the window is 780. So as we move through time, window after window after window, for each window, this defines the method of calculating the return. And the difference between simple and point to point is quite straightforward. Simple means we calculate the return for each of the single days within the 780 period, and then we add them all up. On the other hand, with point to point, what we do is we take the first point of the 780 period and we take the last point of the 780 period and we calculate that return. And to demonstrate why these will be different, you can just take a simple example of a price of 100 going to 101, 102, 103. In the point-to-point case, we would just say 3% because 103 to 100. In the other case, we'd actually have 1% on the first day. The next day, you'll have slightly more or less depending on what the prices change, because the previous price is now the previous day's return. So simple returns is the sum of the daily returns of the period, and point-to-point is basically the first and the last price of that period, basically. And it applies to each and every window within the entire rolling period that you define.
How about annualized? Is it a CAGR that you're talking about here?
No, so this is definitely not CAGR, because since we're doing rolling return, especially over a period of time, CAGR will not make sense, because again, compounding will have different effects over different periods of time, and we don't want the rolling returns to be affected. And effectively, it means that what we're doing is we're eradicating the problems that come with path dependency. There have been a couple of articles on Financial Times in India, Economics, also about this, about the problems that can happen, especially when we use CAGR to compare returns during let's say the last 2 years versus the last 8 years, etc. So when rolling analysis, you won't ever see CAGR. You will only see annualized using a regular, a normal annualization method, which is
better absolute or annualized. What do you think we should take?
See here again, this is an investor's preference, the user's preference. I mean, for example, the absolute might make sense if let's say your client is worried about a 3-year period, and they're saying, I'm going to put money in right now, and I'm going to only take it out 3 years later. And I just want to know what is going to become of my 100 rupees. So in that case, absolute might make sense, because you can give them a straight answer that, look, after 3 years, there's a good chance you'll be up 100% or 80% or whatever. But on the other hand, if somebody is looking for a general investment and they just want to see on an ongoing basis what kind of returns they can expect over longer rolling periods, in that case, annualized would make more sense, because you can give them a standardized answer, which can be compared across their other investments. So absolute would generally, in my mind, would make sense when you're talking about a specific length of time, while annualized would be more relevant for a general investment decision.
Thanks a lot.
Arnav,
In general, what we need to take, Anirudh ji?
So basically, if your clients are looking for an exact period, like they want to put away money for 5 years or 3 years, then
Right.
telling them that you will get a CAGR of 18% for 3 years, it's a confusing thing, because then the person has to think, okay, what does that mean? I put 100 rupees, then I have to apply a formula and see. So if you do absolute, you will get a straight answer. That's you put 100 rupees now, 3 years later, you will get 80% or 90%. So 100 will become 180. So that's a straightforward answer you can give if you are discussing a specific period of time. But if you're looking at general investments, then obviously we have to have a way of comparing one investment versus the other, in which case using an annualized number, which is a standardized way of calculating, because even whether it's a 3-year period or a 5-year period or a 2-year period, you get an annualized number, which gives you an idea of why the 2-year period might be better than the 5-year period, etc. So in the general case, you should use annualized. But again, these are, this is what we think.
Thank you. And the other option, that is simple returns. When we use annualized, should it be simple returns or point to point? Point to point is for a particular period. Otherwise, it should be simple only, right?
Yes. So again, I mean, you should do your kind of own research here. But our suggestion is that, generally speaking, for most quantitative analysis methods, we have always used simple returns for the straightforward fact that we are looking at an overall period of time to gauge how an investment is done. But in reality, for example, the example that I gave you, 100 going to 103. In one case, you're making 3%. In the other case, if I'm getting this right, you probably make slightly more than 3%. Sorry, less, I think. I'm getting confused here myself. But the point is, those numbers will be different. We believe that the simple return method is correct, because 101 did in fact go to 102, right? 102 did in fact go to 103. And in those days, the returns were different. So if you're looking at point to point, that might give you a little bit of a bias. In fact, Umair, if you're running it, let's make it annualized. Okay, absolute is fine. Absolute is fine. So just do simple and just click on simple and then run, just to make sure we are on that. Okay, so if you keep an eye on the low column and on the low column and also the high column. So you can see ranging from 26, 20s, minus 18. Now change simple to point to point. So now you can see the numbers are becoming worse when you do point to point. And so this is something, again, you have to consider which one you want to use. If we look at the other side, 100 falling to 50, let's say, then the first day you're down 50%. What if the 50 falls then to 25? Then you're down another 50%, right? Now, in the simple return case, we will do minus 50 plus minus 50, which means you'll get minus 100%, which theoretically isn't basically possible unless the price goes to 0. But in the point-to-point case...
Hello. Can you ask Arnab to be on a mute? It's quite disturbing.
Sorry?
Can you ask Arnab to be on a mute? It's quite disturbing. The voice
I
is
was
lagging.
just answering a question from one of the participants.
No, the other person, the Arnab Mukherjee, I guess, he's not on mute. Can you ask this to be on a mute so that the voice doesn't get lagged?
Arnab Mukherjee who is talking right now.
Oh, I see. Maybe there's some background noise there. Maybe because that. Hopefully, it's a bit better now. Yeah. So again, as we were talking, when we look at 100 going down to 50 and then going down to 25, in one case, we will say the return is minus 75% because you've fallen from 100 to 25. In the other case, we will say minus 50 for the first day, minus 50 for the second day. So you will be down 100%. In fact, you might see, if you put some indices on here, you will see the lows would be lower than 100%. Sometimes it will be 150%, 160%. You'll see numbers like that in the simple return case. But you have to understand that it's a rolling figure of a sum. So if you, again, sorry for such a long answer, but basically my suggestion is, if you're talking to clients and they're looking at numbers, I would stick to point, because it becomes hard for someone to understand that something is down 120%. But for your own research purposes, I would suggest simple returns, especially when comparing different time periods and different funds. Hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, we are no hardcore technical analysts. We are also upgrading ourselves, and that's the question. Reason we are asking you what first steps to baby steps to start with.
Of course, no problem. We are always here to help.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question. Since we have, hi, this is Hemendra. Can I ask my question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Since we have the returns, the rolling returns in front of us for 3-year, 5-year period, is there any further data to this where we can say that there is 80% of the chance where in a 3-year period we have got positive return, or a 70% times we have got positive return? Because that data will be helpful in having a meaningful conversation with the client.
Absolutely, sir. So that's a great point. In fact, what you're looking at right below this is exactly that. So here we have defined 5 different ranges, but you can change them. So in this case, the default ranges aren't really very good, because you can see the high goes up to 100%. But you can see 10 to 15%. You can see the percentage of time that these funds, so yeah, let's change it to 70 to 100%, right? So the percentage of times, once you click off here, percentage of time, the rolling returns for 780 on these funds on an absolute basis have gone to between 70 and 100% are mentioned here. So you can see, for example, let's take Axis Midcap, 70, so the 8%, almost 8%, 7.93% of their total returns have been between 70 and 100. So you can change these and you can see the results.
So you mean to say in this case, Axis Midcap has not given negative return, right?
Correct. Ever.
Correct?
Ever.
So they have not, but Motilal has, there is a 2% chance that Motilal can give us a negative return.
Exactly. In fact, actually, sir, Motilal, there's a 3.16% chance, because there are some returns that are -5 and -10 also.
Yes. So minus return is 3.16%.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Arnab, is
Yeah.
this rolling return is daily basis, or what is the time period it has been taken?
Yeah, so the rolling window is 780 days, which is, you can consider 3 days, 3 years. And the window moves forward in time on every single working day. You can see this for yourself with Umair. Let's just hover over the chart. As he's moving, you can see the days, the exact days. In fact, Umair, just go to one of the days and just stop. Yeah, so 96.08%. Now, I don't know which fund is this, one of the funds. It is literally saying, this is a factual statement, that on 17th March 2017, this fund for the preceding 780 days gave you an absolute return of 96.08%. Right?
Which means it is a negative, right?
Sorry, no, so this is a very high positive number, 96% return.
Oh, it's been annualized then?
No, so this is actually absolute. That's why it's so high.
No, how come in a one day it can't give 96%?
Oh, no. So it's not the return for the day. This is the rolling return for the
last 780 days.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And as you move forward in time, you will see the last 780 days return.
Okay.
At any point.
Got it.
And basically on the left-hand side, the average column, the volatility column, high, low, these are applying to this time series that you see on the right.
So basically, it's a 3-year daily rolling return.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Okay, we can move forward.
Okay, go ahead.
So as we have already shown here, what you can have here is rolling return distribution. So as I have already, typed in 25 to 50, these are all the intervals where you can see the back testing as to, between the interval.
Sorry, 1 second. So what is the longest period that which we can able to take? 780 days, or what is the longest rolling return period that which we can? 10 years?
You can take 10 years if your youngest fund is more than 10 years. Like, let's say your youngest fund is in the list here is more than 15 to 18 years, then you can take a rolling window of 10 years. So you just have to multiply it by 260. So that will be equals to 2600. So if you type in 2600, you might get the data.
Okay, so you mean to say that we need to make sure the life of the fund has to be more than 10 years when you choose the 10-year
Exactly.
time horizon. For
Otherwise,
all the funds, I'm saying.
for all the funds, then only you can compare all the funds all together.
Okay, great.
Yes. So that's it.
Excuse me, can I ask one more question?
Yes.
This is Hemendra. So do we have the choice to select the funds in this, or which funds we want to add?
You can definitely add the funds from here.
Okay, and if I want to do it in general selection of all mid caps, is that also possible?
Yeah, so you
All
can
mid-caps or all
directly
funds?
add the SEBI category. If you type in mid cap here, you can
okay.
directly add the mid cap fund here.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I shall continue. So this is the distribution I've shown you before, and this shows you the between the intervals. There are 5 intervals where you can select the intervals, and this is all downloadable in Excel. So you can see the remainder as well, and you can select as many funds as you can. And we have also given an Excel button here to actually, download this particular data into Excel. And we have given this downloadable chart. So you can download this chart in PNG, JPEG, PDF, and SVG. You can print this chart as well. So this is the entire rolling analysis we have given here. The next one we are gonna use in the comparative analysis is actually the years column. Here you can see the calendar years returns all together, where you can actually sort in accordingly. So since the inception of the funds, every single fund, you can see the returns, and then you can possibly sort it out. So you can add as many funds as you can, and accordingly you can see that in 2018 only one fund is in the positive, which is Axis Midcap Fund Growth. So here you can also download the table in Excel. Then we have the bulk download. So within bulk download, what you can do here is you can just click on this particular Excel button, and the entire holdings with this particular 10 funds will be downloaded in an Excel format. And then what you can do is you can go into the monthly SIP.
Umesh,
So, yeah.
can I interrupt?
Yes.
In terms of calendar years which you are showing, how does it help us for interpretation?
So let's say your client wants to know let's say at the point of, at a point of time like 2018, which fund has actually given you the positive return. So you can directly sort in. So these are, there are some scenarios wherein like in the 2020 COVID lockdown, what happened, which particular fund has performed the best in that particular calendar year. So you can just sort in and actually see that it was PGIM India, which has performed, very well in this particular format. So you can use this calendar year as per as your need, as your clients require them to know. You can just show it to your client that why you are particularly suggesting that fund to them. So this is how you can use it, sir.
So basically, just to answer that question, in a worst period of time, you can see which fund has fallen less. So probably that will help you to protect your downside.
Correct.
Yes.
I don't know whoever asked this question, but sorry to interrupt.
Karthik, no, thanks for it's mutual interaction will only help us to capture the data and understand and take decisions.
Yeah. Right? Basically, this will help you to understand in a calendar year where is the upside and then where is the downside. So when the market does well, how the fund has done well. When the market has fallen, how it has fallen. So just to protect the downside, you can have an idea about like the fund's performance.
Correct. So it is in the nature of up capture and down capture. Really.
Maybe you can interpret that way.
Correct. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I was going into monthly SIP here. So monthly SIP gives you an overview of XIRR and the final value. What you can do here is you can just click on the start date, particularly any particular date. You can choose, let's say 2020. You can choose the particular date here. You can run the SIP. You can change the installment altogether, let's say 10,000. And once you have run it, you can see the XIRR. So the highest XIRR is generated by PGIM India in this particular start date and end date. Then you can see the final value of the same. And we have also given this button, this piggy bank button, which will actually run a detailed SIP analysis. So once you click on this particular button, it will just draw you towards the SIP analysis. In the tools section, where you can see PGIM India midcap opportunities, the entire value is generated here and the entire graph is generated here. That you can also download the PDF summary of this SIP analysis of the same, and you can also see the final SIP values of every single working day from the start till the end. So that is it for the detailed SIP analysis. You can come back into the fund section, and then you can also download this particular data. And within this data, we have also given a hovering where you can actually hover into this graph and see which one has actually given you the highest final value. So here, this is it for the SIP analysis. Then you can come into the one of the most interesting section is called as risk versus return. So within this quadrant, we have actually shown it up to you that this is in the left side, it is annualized risk. And in the downer side, it is annualized return. And in the downer side, it is annualized risk, which is standard deviation. So what you can do is you can, within the point-to-point dates, accordingly, let's say 2018, you can just click go. And then you can see accordingly that which particular mutual fund has generated a return and risk. So you can see the risk and return generation here for every particular mutual fund. So the main thing here is that, within this left quadrant is more desirable because you're actually giving more returns according to the risk. And here, if the mutual fund is particularly in this particular quadrant, it means that it is very highly risk and the returns might be lower. So that is how you can actually decide on removing some funds into the fund list and come up with a suggestion that you can only go ahead with 4 or 5 funds and do the further analysis.
When you call risk, what do you define it as a risk?
It is a standard deviation, sir. Annualized risk.
Oh, it's a standard deviation.
Yes.
So this is for the recent period, the preceding 1 year, or how does it work?
No, this is for the particular date. So we have given the start date and the end date.
Oh,
Once you change the date, let's say you go for 2017, you can directly, run this particular analysis and then you can, go ahead with it.
Oh, okay. It's
Customized one. It is flexible according to your needs. It is flexible according to your end date. You can even change the end date altogether. So let's say if you want to have an end date altogether, so you can just click on this, and then you will be having this, particular 4 years start date, end date. As you know, as you can see, only Axis Midcap is the one which is having a good, particularly return within the risk. Others are in this particular quadrant here. So as you know, Motilal Oswal is actually, having more higher volatility, higher standard deviation than the return.
Ideally, the time frame should be what for seeing this graph or analyzing the graph?
It depends on the customer appetite, sir. So if you want to have a particular time frame, I would rather suggest you, if you're going for a long term, you can just go for a 5 years. So let's say you go for 2017 to 2022. So that will be a ideal time frame. But it depends on the customer, the one who is actually going to subscribe, going to actually invest with you. So let's say a customer is going for a long run, like maybe 3 to 4 years down the line, then you can just choose in 2017 to 2022 as of today's date and click go. So accordingly, my main suggestion here is that once you have done the risk versus return analysis, you can even backtest it by going into rolling analysis and check the actual average they are generating. And as you see, why rolling analysis in the absolute term is so, is accurate in that point of view, that you can see Axis Midcap and Kotak Emerging Equity are still in the left quadrant, which is giving you a particularly good return according to the risk.
Generally, SIPs, one-time investments are for a longer tenure only.
Yes.
Right, but the decision which we have to take is to pick up a product which have a forecasting a future. So this helps us. This is on a consistent basis. Axis is doing good.
Yes.
Can we get the picture of this, or we have to just the print screen?
You can just click on the screenshot image. So if you want to get the entire picture of this, you can just screenshot this particular image. You can click on this get screenshot image and it gets screenshotted.
Okay.
Sir, I have one question. In this screen, one of the challenge that we face is, invariably there'll be some fund in the comparison, which has only a 1 year tenure or something of that sort. And then, we are not able to get this, the comparison becomes limited to only the last 1 year.
Yes.
So is there a way to sort of ignore that particular fund, while doing this? Or should I just remove it from the whole comparison list itself?
Sir, even if we find a way, The problem arises that how you're going to compare a fund which is not having that particular historical return. The only data we have is a historical, data. So if you're
But let's say
trying,
that, one of the fund is relatively new in the portfolio. Okay, so in this particular report, I want to compare the remaining funds. So there is no easy method. If that is possible, it will be good. I mean, I'm just suggesting, giving it as a
what he
suggestion.
says is, people from Engine, what he says is absolutely right. See, when you have a 1 year fund and then you compare that with a 10-year old fund, the comparison happens only for 1 year.
right?
So, but what we say is that, see, when you have a 1 year fund and then you compare it with another 3-4 funds which has 6 year or 10 year or 15 year, let this particular 1 year fund be not available or whatever it is, but allow us to compare the other funds. So for
you can directly remove that particular young
that's
fund.
the
into
only
the
option.
fund.
Yes, that's the only option that what we have. So his question and then your answer is that we have to remove that fund from the list.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
Hi, this is Arnav here. I'll just chime in a little bit here. I understand the issue that you're facing. For example, if you wanted to, let's say, remove Axis Midcap because it was new, but you want to remove it only temporarily for the purposes of, let's say, this chart only.
Exactly. Yes.
We could potentially do something like that. My only concern would be that it might become, confusing on your part because, for example, if we give you that facility on this tab.
No, another option, sir, is, you can actually, when we choose a particular date, okay, your backend system can ignore all the funds which don't have that date at all.
Absolutely. That will be the best option.
So then it will be clear cut. There'll be only like, let's say we choose the last, 10 years, it will show only funds with the 10-year history over
Very
here.
true. So that will be great. So the other platforms has that option.
So you're saying that if we say, something like 2010 here, then the number of dots on the chart will reduce.
Correct.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. That's very true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see an issue with doing that.
In fact, Arnav, we have discussed this while we have a chat.
Yeah, I know, but the problem is that we are talking about one tab, right? Do we then allow that same thing to happen on other tabs as well? Because, for example, if you go to fund list, just go fund list here, and we'll look at, like, let's say, relative columns as a start date there. If we allow the same thing to happen, technically we could do it here also, right? Because
that's just a matter of sorting. That's it. So with the age of the fund, you are going to sort it. Like whatever has the age, it is going to be appear here. If it is not, then it is going to be out of the list.
So here in this particular screen, you can allow the funds to be there. I mean, the excess return can just be shown as 0. I mean, not available or whatever.
Yeah, something like a dash or something. Okay. No, okay. Thank you for that feedback. I mean, let us just have a look at how we could, make this happen. We can try to, get that effect.
Because that was always a challenge that I was facing while using this rolling return. Because rolling return and this risk versus return chart. It's a very useful chart, but invariably there is one NFO or something in the client portfolio which causes this problem. So that's a challenge. It will be very good if we can sort of change it.
Also here we can maybe try. We can try to put this functionality, let's say, on this tab, and what we'll then do is, if you do 2010, we will show you like a warning on the right hand side somewhere that because of your start date, 3 funds are missing in this.
Correct. Yes.
Because what we don't want to do is, let the users think that they are getting a comparison list, but it's, it's not actually happening. Okay, fine. So we've definitely noted that down. We'll have a look at it and try to get some solutions.
Thank you.
Arnav, I have one question or suggestion.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. When we are trying to select the AMC wise funds, can we have an option of selecting only debt and equity with the balance advantage category into equity? Because when we select fund house, for example, SDFC, I get total 120 or whatever is the number. I don't require all them, but I just need a bifurcation. Will you be
Okay,
able
so
to do it?
so what we can do is something a little bit better. I think just go to the screen section, Umer. Now here you can actually select, let's say just select all equities on the top, right? So now and then go to AMC and select maybe just one or two or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking on the main screen itself where when I select the AMC, I have a button whether equity or debt.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, here, for example, here you will have to click on each of the little buttons. But this is one pending requirement we have where you
and
can
in that particular
add all.
equity section, in equity, one more suggestion would be in equity section, equity hybrid should be in that equity section, not in debt side.
So we are using the SEBI classifications as they have been given to us. So
yeah, within that category only I am talking. I don't want any deviation from that.
Understand.
But
okay,
hybrids are generally taken into debt.
Sure. Okay, we'll
just
have a
think about it. Yeah, please have a look at it.
Sure. Matt, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have actually, completed the risk versus return chart. Now, what you can do is you can go into the positional overlap. So what you can do here, once you click on it, you can see the entire pool of funds here in the mid cap category, and you can see the total overlap matrix. So within this total overlap matrix, you can see the position overlap between them. So let's say if I'm comparing Nippon India Growth Fund with Aditya Birla SL Mid Cap, so you can see there is a position overlap of 35%. So I can just click on it and I can see the entire stocks which are overlapping. And this is also downloadable in Excel in this particular button. Once I click on it, it gets downloaded. And then you can see the entire overlap. So here you can do many things, not even just, the fund list you have selected. We have also given an opportunity here to actually add in the portfolios. So this will be more relevant when you add the portfolio. Let's say you're adding one model portfolio, let's say a model portfolio 1, and let me add another one. Okay, let's say this one. Let's say I'm adding one, model portfolio of a client, then you can actually see the positional overlap between the funds, between the different diversified fund in the SEBI class into the position overlap. So as you can see here that IDFC Flexi Cap and ICICI Axis Blue Chip is having a very high, overlap, positional overlap between the stocks. So you can just click on it and see the overlap between the stocks.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, so in this overlap thing, can you also show what doesn't overlap? So we can, it helps us choose, one fund over the other that, what the overlaps are not. So for example, let's say the India Opportunities Fund of ICICI, the Discovery, there's a lot of common stuff, but then that doesn't help me decide fully one over the other because I want to know what each fund has that the other doesn't.
Okay, so we also, we will, point it down. But as of now, what we have given here is the minimum common holdings. So what you can do here is, if you want to know if you're actually, if your entire portfolio is actually diversified, then you can, the fund list will be empty here. So, but if you see the particular, any other portfolio, there might be some common holdings altogether in here. So here we can, point it out. I will just, Arunabh sir can take it ahead with this. But as of now, what we have given here is you can just directly, see the overlap between the existing stocks.
Yeah, another second, actually it's a suggestion. If you can do overlap of sectors and a non-overlap of sectors, that also helps.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks. We'll note both those points.
Sectoral level.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead. Here I have actually shown the positional overlap, so you can directly, so this will help you to diversify the portfolio essentially. So you can even, choose and to remove those particular, positions like into the fund list. So the main idea here is that let's say you're going for Axis Blue Chip or IDFC Flexi Cap. So you can compare them within the rolling analysis, or you can compare them in risk and return and remove one of them to actually diversify the portfolio. So this is the entire thing of the position overlap. The next thing is the correlation. So let me just
one question here. So can we have this in a PDF format instead of a snapshot?
Yes, so we have been getting this request from many IFAs. We have noted that down already. So once we have a clear picture, we will actually update you, sir.
And also, when we create this into a PowerPoint presentation, are we getting this particular tab into the PowerPoint?
So you're talking about the portfolio, right, sir?
Yes.
Yes. So within the portfolio, we actually do not show the position overlap. We show the correlation matrix.
But we want, see, this will be more helpful than the correlation.
Understood, sir. I got your point. So we will note it down and we will, take it forward later down the line.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your feedback, sir. So the next one is I've already finished. What you can do here is you can also download this particular data, and also if there is an overlapping positions here, you can also download that as well. Then next one we have correlation.
Please.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I mean, you mentioned about go to the previous. You mentioned about the screen that
Sorry, sir, your voice is a bit inaudible.
Somebody else is speaking in the background. No, you mentioned about you can go back to rolling and then see which one to be removed. Can you just do that and show it?
Okay, so you want to know that the one which I mentioned about that I can go back to the rolling analysis or a risk versus return, and how to actually differentiate between these two particular funds. Am I correct, sir?
Right.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned you didn't do it, so I just
yeah. So yeah, let me give you a demonstration of the same as well. So let's say you want to diversify your portfolio. So this is your main task. What you can do is as you have noted down that IDFC Flexi and Axis Blue Chip are overlapping, and here you can see IDFC Tax and Flexi are overlapping. So here there are three funds which are overlapping between each other. So the main thing here is that you want to actually remove one of them or two of them. So what you can do is you can come into the rolling analysis, and within the rolling analysis you can use this particular hello.
No, I think someone.
Yeah. So within the rolling analysis, let me just keep this up like this. Okay. So within the rolling analysis, you can use this particular methodology within absolute and simple return, and you can just run them up. So once you have run them up, you can just check for a 3-year period. So let's say you're going for a 3-year period. Once you have run them up, you can just directly see the average or the volatility. So it is according to the investor as well. So if you want to remove one particular thing, so you can just see where Axis Blue Chip is underlying. It is 41 average, and even the positive is low. And then you can just check where the position overlap happened. So let me just check this IDFC Flexi Cap. So you can just come back to the Flexi Cap and see where it is lying in the list. So you can take either a decision to go for Axis Blue Chip or a Flexi Cap with a rolling analysis. Okay. So here you can directly check in out, and then you can remove that into the fund list. So if you want to remove it here directly. Okay. So once you come into the position overlap, it will be gone. So IDFC Flexi Cap will not have no exposure in this portfolio. So if I remove IDFC Flexi Cap here, now there will be no exposure. So now this is another portfolio altogether. Now you don't have a underlying positional overlap between these two assets.
All right.
Okay. Is it clear to you, sir?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. So next one is the correlation. So correlation is according to the historical returns of the particular assets. So let's say you want to differentiate between two assets. Let's say Axis Blue Chip Fund and Aditya Birla SL Tax Relief 96 growth. So it shows you 0.92. So the interval is that 0.95 is highly correlated. So these two assets, as you can see, are highly correlated. And if you have 0.75 or lesser than 0.75, something like this, like ICICI Prudential Blue Chip and SBI small cap fund, so they are lowly correlated. So the correlation between them is that if Axis Blue Chip gives you, a good return with a high correlation, then Aditya Birla might give you, a good returns as well. And it is vice versa as well according to the risk. So if you're choosing assets with high correlation, you might expose your portfolio to, higher risk. So to diversify the portfolio, you can prefer going to a numbering called 0.75 or something like that. So this is how you can use this particular, correlation analysis to diversify the portfolio. And by the way, what we have given here is you can actually use this correlation analysis into the portfolio analytics as well. So you can, use them in the both ways. The next one as the performance.
This is regarding to returns only, right?
Yes, sir.
So
regarding to
the
this
correlation that which you are talking about is the kind of a return that each and every fund generates.
Yes. So it is possible that if Axis Blue Chip has generated some sorts of return, then Aditya Birla might be close to that return, generating that some sort of return between the date of January 1, 2023 to 10 Feb 2022. So it means that their particular, behavior is particularly similar. That's what
I have a slightly different view here. See, probably it's more to do with the portfolio and then the return. See, if two funds can able to give you the same amount of return with having a completely differentiated portfolio, what's wrong with that?
That is not wrong. That is completely not wrong. If you're more into returns, right? If you want to, boost your portfolio, obviously you can go for choosing a highly correlated portfolio. That depends on how you construct a portfolio.
Correct.
So yeah, so I am just giving you an example here that you can use this particular numbers. Let's say 0.95 is a number which is high correlation. So
no,
if
what I was trying to understand is that how I can able to use this particular tab. That's the reason I was asking you that question.
Yes.
One more thing I'll say, that it's important to appreciate the fact that correlation does not mean exact amount of return. So by that I mean that if one fund is up 10% in one day and the other one is up 1%, their correlation will be the highest possible number, which will be 1.0. So correlation means behavior towards up and down and how close they are relative to each other, not with the actual amount. So when you see a very high correlation number, doesn't mean that both the funds will have exactly the same return. It means that over time, they've been moving up and down very, very similarly to each other. And if you have, for example, a case where the position overlap is not very high, but yet the correlation is still high, that means that the underlying holdings of one fund are very highly correlated to the underlying holdings of the other fund. So simple example, if you take two banking stocks, and I'm not sure if the correlation is high, but let's assume that the correlation between HDFC and ICICI Bank stock is very, very high. If you have two funds, one fund is holding only HDFC stock, 100%. The other one is holding only ICICI Bank stock, 100%. The position overlap between these two funds will be 0, but the correlation will be very, very high. So the point that you can take from this is the fact that at the end of the day, if you want diversification, position overlap will let you find common positions, but it is not going to help you find diversification problems, because at the end of the day, even if they are different stocks, if they are moving together, then your returns are not diversified. Unless, of course, one fine day they stop moving together, which is also possible.
Correct.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Arunabji, one suggestion, like in position overlap, you have mentioned in the brackets of 20 to 40%, 40 to 60% common things are there. Here, can you mention that 0.90 is high correlation and 0.75 can be taken, means some indication where we can take an inference whether 0.75 is a good correlation or medium correlation?
I understand. Here, only the issue is that, what correlation is good or bad is highly subjective to what you're looking at. If, for example, Umair had put 10 large cap funds in here, then everything would be very, very high, 0.95, 0.96. But if he puts a reasonably well diversified portfolio in here, then 0.9293 is actually quite bad. 0.78 is okay. So the problem here is, while with overlap, we are saying a number that can be easily understood, which is this much of the fund is exactly the same as that much of the other fund. But with correlation, it becomes very subjective when you're looking at it. We can try and think of some way that in this particular case to say what is high, what is not based on the other correlations in this matrix only. But yeah, just give us some time. We can try and think of some correct way of.
So you're saying there is no significance to the colors that are given here.
So here the colors, at least I think what we've attempted to do is, the lighter it is, that means the lower correlation. The more green, so dark, so 0.94 you can see is more dark green than 0.89, and 0.89 is more dark green than 0.52, and so on.
Okay, so
basically, can I assume that correlations is more useful whenever we see client's portfolio as a whole, instead of just analyzing a scheme for a particular category, let's say mid cap or large cap, something like that?
Absolutely, I would say that, and I think you can use position overlap to sometimes explain why the correlation is high. Sometimes it will not, sometimes it will not, but sometimes it will. So yeah, I think that would be the right way. In fact, you can here see I think the Aditya Birla Sun Life Tax Relief 96 and the Aditya Birla Sun Life Tax Plan. You can see a correlation of 1, right? I think they may be the same underlying returns or something. Just on the far right, may I just keep going? Yeah, this one. So again, so if you're wondering what is this, you go to position overlap, you'll see a very, very high overlap for exactly this pair.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I shall continue. So here we have, we have completed the correlations. Next, we go to the performance chart. So within the performance chart, you can select in the point-to-point dates here. So you have, as you can see, and you can also select some indices. So the reason behind selecting the indices here is that you can compare the indices with all the mutual funds you have selected into the fund list. So here we have given the options to add other items where you can select particular indices. So you can add multiple indices as you please. So let's say I'm adding Nifty Mid Cap 100. I'm adding another indices, maybe like Dow and Jones. So you can compare as many indices into the performance chart, and you can even compare it with the rolling analysis till the correlation. So here you can see the indices comparison of Dow and Jones, Nifty Midcap with other funds into the portfolio as well. And then you can hopefully do the analysis. So here what you can do is you can even zoom in for the particular monthly like, so let's say you just want to see the price series of here, so you can directly see it directly from here. So accordingly you can screenshot the same for this particular performance chart, and then we can go ahead with the point-to-point analysis. So within the point-to-point analysis as well, here we have given 5 different sets of scenarios within absolute and annualized. So here what you can do is you can change the calendar dates accordingly, and then you can sort in accordingly. So as you know, I have already added some indices, and I can even add a custom security as well. So let's say I'm adding a custom security as a PMS. So I can directly add in from this select security. You can just click on this, my PMS, and then you can compare PMS with other mutual funds, indices, and altogether everything, whichever it is given into the fund list. So here we have given all the point-to-point analysis, and here you can compare them. So these are all the scenarios. Let's say what happened in 2019, election 2019. So you can directly see that these are all the 4 particular PMS, Nifty Midcap, Quant Small Cap, and Aditya Birla, which were in the negatives in the absolute format. So here you can see which are the positives as well. And this particular dates will be saved and once you download this data into Excel. And if you click on annualized, it analyzes everything. So it analyzes if you choose it for one particular 6 month period as well. If you have an interval, so it will analyze altogether. The next one is the last 12 months. So this one shows you the last 12 months performance of all the securities which we have listed into the fund list. So you can see every particular month, you can hover your mouse and see, and you can see the average, best, worst, and annual volatility as well. So accordingly, you can even compare it Nifty, and you can even see the my PMS. This is a custom security, by the way, which I have added, and you can see the average of that custom security as well. So this will help you in comparing the recent performance of the assets which you have added into the fund list, and this will help you into the comparative analysis of the mutual funds. So the next thing what you can do is you can add in multiple portfolios. So you have already seen for doing the correlation analysis, I've added one portfolio, and also for position. So you can add in multiple portfolios from the portfolio section. It is essentially this portfolio section. You can just add in, let's say, this one equity not equity, this one like Rakesh Kumar. So you can add this particular portfolio and gauge in all the rolling analysis till the last 12 months. So every single parameter will be actually updated for this particular portfolio altogether. So this is it for the entire comparative analysis. And, let's say once you have added some particular funds, and once you have, let's say I'm just adding a composition list here of large cap funds. So let's say you want to actually make a portfolio out of it. So by the way, you won't be making a large cap fund portfolio altogether, but hypothetically, let's say you want to create a portfolio of this particular 6 mutual funds. So what you can do is you can just click on this create. So once you click on create, the entire portfolio gets this entire funds gets converted into the portfolio, and it is written as from compare 33. And once you go into the portfolio section, you can directly come here from compare. And then you can see from compare 33, this is the exact portfolio which is made from the fund list. So the main purpose of comparative analysis is to come up with some sets of funds for your client, and then you can directly onboard them into the portfolio section. Then you can go on with the portfolio analytics, and altogether you can change the allocation, you can improve the portfolio, and all sorts of things with this particular optimizer. So I have finished this entire compare section. If anyone has questions, we can address them.
There was one question here saying, can we actually compare large cap and small cap? Yes, it's very easy. You can clear the list in the compare section. You can remove everything, and you can just add a Nifty mid cap index. So instead of a fund, so maybe just have no funds at all. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, remove everything and only add 2-3 indices. So for example, if you're just wondering how is mid cap doing, generally speaking, versus let's say some other index. So you can just you can even save this comparison. So you can from time to time come back to it and look at it. So you have a good handle of what's going on in the market. If somebody asks about how mid cap is doing versus Nifty, so you can actually do a complete analysis of just index versus index versus index.
This is very useful.
Yeah, so we have seen quite a lot of people who save their views of BSE indices, NSE indices, and it's not just this. You can go to risk versus return. Obviously, position overlap will not make sense here. We don't show index weights, but so there you go. He's just saved this thing, so he can just load it whenever he wants to. And performance chart will help put it all together. You can put some foreign indices like NASDAQ, Dow Jones, if you're trying to get your clients into some overseas investments, or even some of the funds that are investing overseas. It's a pretty compelling argument when you show Dow Jones or NASDAQ versus anything else. So you can go to performance chart here, Ume.
There was something interesting there.
Yeah. So again, and with the good thing about, and you can see, you can see where, with such a long term, it's a long term period from 2003, there is no doubt, right? BSE small cap, Nifty mid cap, they are way ahead of everything else. So, but again, you can get some really nice answers out and just insights also. And what we've done with this chart, this is obviously still possible in the market section in the first page of the application, but here, here obviously you can do the same thing over there. But in the compare section, you can actually do other things like rolling analysis and risk versus return and things.
So any other questions? What is the usefulness of this bulk download, which forms an Excel file?
This is, this was actually specifically asked for by quite a few people. Umair, actually just load any fund, just any one fund once this is done. If you're looking at holdings, for anything, just click on anything. Yeah. So generally speaking, here when you load any fund, you can always go to asset allocation, and with one click, you can download the latest holdings of this fund. Here on the right hand side top here, there's an Excel icon. You click this, you get an Excel sheet which has all this list, the 41 holdings. But lots of people said that sometimes they want to download holdings for 15, 20 funds in one go. Okay. So that was the main focus.
Take it.
Hi, this is Bharat here.
Hi.
Arnab, I don't know if you remember, but I took your package around the beginning of last year and I'd given this feedback regarding this bulk download.
Okay.
That if you can have right now, if you do the bulk download, everything, all the funds are in a single column, one after the other.
Yeah.
And what I suggested was, why don't you have parallel columns for different funds? In the sense, let's say Reliance Industries is held by all the funds. So you have one column after the other showing how much of Reliance each fund holds. So I can actually do a comparison, between the funds. Right now, it's just data one after the other. How do you really use it? What purpose is it for?
I believe the set of people that were asking for this is, I think they, to some of their clients, maybe they were institutional clients, they basically send them a whole data of the entire data set of all the funds in their portfolio. If you want us to add additional columns, yeah, we can look at it. I mean, the name of the fund is obviously there, the holding and the other details. To put them side by side, I remember this conversation. I think the issue was that if you have quite a few funds here, to put things side by side, we'd have to, the number of columns would increase a lot. Because one fund may have 100 holdings and the other fund may have 100 other holdings, in which case, if there is no overlap between those two, everything will have to be every single stock will have to have a column if you want to put it side by side. So we'll try and see if there's a different way to handle this.
Where I'm coming from essentially is, in fact, I'd asked this question in the position overlap section also, some sort of functionality where I can compare visually the holdings between funds. What is common, what is not common, So, for example, there are a good example is the ICICI bouquet of equity funds. There's so many funds out there, for example, managed by Naren, and there's a lot of commonality between them. So it becomes very difficult to choose one over the other. I think the functionality, if you can offer it, would help us choose that, look, these are the common things between these funds and these are not the common things at a stock level, at a sector level.
So your suggestion, we've noted it down. I think this should be completely possible in the position overlap section. When you click on the button or somewhere around that, we'll think of the best place. But right now I can think of when you click on any number and the pop-up opens up, we will find some place here to also show the the things that are not overlapping. So you can have side by side, you can see both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can expect that to be done.
Great, thanks. And even the sectoral thing, please.
Yes, we've written that as well. In sectoral, as I was thinking about it, there may be a little bit of an issue because when we're talking about equities only, then it's fine. We can do that. But the problem is there's other stuff there as well. So then you have debt sectors as well. I mean, there's a banking sector in debt and there's a banking sector in equity. So we'll have to kind of go through all the different holding types and all the sectors within each holding type to kind of show you that. But yeah, I think we'll be able to find some kind of solution.
You could put limitations on it, but I think some sort of tool.
I think what we'll define overlap as if two funds have the same equity sector exposure, then that will count as an overlap. If two funds have the same debt sector exposure, then that will count as a separate overlap.
You could maybe leave out debt totally. Frankly, it makes no difference, right? It's really the sectors we want to compare.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
For example, right now I have to bulk download everything and do a lot of manipulation and Excel, manipulation to get the same result.
Yes.
If you offer that tool, it makes life so much simpler.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Thanks.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
When I am checking for the hybrid category, for example, balance advantage, and I want to compare it with the index, I don't find any hybrid index for comparison.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see. Umair, can you just load any hybrid fund? Let's see what.
For example, take balance advantage fund.
Okay. Yeah. Just load it. In fact, just Umair, just open it or open the fund up so we can see what benchmark. At least what the registered benchmark is. Nifty 50 hybrid composite debt index. Okay, the 6534. So I don't think that we are sourcing this index or these similar ones. So yeah, we will we will try to look at sourcing some of these hybrid indices.
And second thing, when I am selecting the whole category of balance advantage, or for example, I am selecting the flexi cap and trying to look for rolling returns, it's not showing up.
So you're talking about the compare section?
Yes, compare section. You can take a flexi cap category, and when I am adding it to the compare section, it's not showing up. Rolling returns are not showing up.
Okay, so we'll just add all the 30 funds in the flexi cap category. Just give it a few seconds to load, and then we'll go to rolling. And obviously, because there's 30 funds, it will take a few seconds to run.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I think it was stuck at one particular fund, right?
Yes.
I think the Samco fund data is not there.
That data didn't arrive.
Actually, you can just close it. That time it will load all the balance and Samco will be left out. You can close this pop-up. That time it will be fine. Normally.
I think
this pop-up is a problem when right now principal mutual funds have been merged with Sundaram. So whenever we load our saved list, principal name comes and then this pop-up comes on and off. And we don't have any option to delete that particular principal funds.
Understand? Yeah. Okay. So that yeah. So we'll definitely try to release something quickly for that. So what we'll do is okay. If data does not arrive back for something, it will actually be taken out of the list. That's we'll do that. So it doesn't stop you. Like we just got stuck right now because of one fund. Okay, no problem. So I think the FlexiCap question that you're asking, we'll have a look at it. Adinupur Umair, just please take down, just write down so we can get back to him about it. So we'll have a look at it and get back to you.
I was also trying,
Hello.
even I was trying for balance advantage. I tried 4 times. At the last attempt only, I was able to see the rolling returns of balance advantage category also.
For balanced advantage, I think, hold on, let me just check here. So you got 27 funds here. Let's see if they all come back.
So there might be one particular fund which will be very young. Like you can see Sundaram balance advantage is 0.11.
Yeah, actually, Umair, I think you're right. I think that's the problem. Okay, fine. So something is, I think one of the funds is getting stuck here for some reason. We'll definitely look at that. We will provide you a fix. I think, I mean, we'll check it. We'll check it.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Yeah, I have a query regarding balance advantage fund. Sometime I want to check equity exposure with balance advantage fund. So in some fund it is showing right. For example, PGIM is showing 31% equity and 68% other. So that's right. Same with Axis, that's right. But in other fund, you are considering arbitrage as equity. For example, if I consider Kotak balance advantage, percentage of equity is 67%, but in actually 38% is pure equity and 30% is arbitrage. So do you have anything that we can show here that how much they have allocated to pure equity?
Yeah, so this has been an ongoing issue for us. The reason for this is that we don't take the equity exposure numbers directly from the fact sheet. We calculate everything on our side using the holdings that are given. Umair, could you load Kotak balance advantage here so we can show what the holdings are like? So just load that fund. So if we, after that, if we look at asset allocation and overview, we'll see, so here you see when we get the holdings, unfortunately here, we just scroll down slowly so we can just see over here, the issue is that there is nothing here telling us that which is the arbitrage portion of it. And we have raised this issue with our data provider as well. Of course, for us, it's a simple matter of just reducing the arbitrage portion. But currently, the way it is, there is no way for us to identify the arbitrage portion from the holdings that are given to us. And that's the reason that sometimes you're just looking at the whole thing and it's all coming in equities. So we'll follow up with the data providers again and see, because all they need to do is technically just give us a negative number, and that will just solve the problem. But we'll again follow up with them.
Okay.
Is there any contact point or something where we can drop our questions when we get it, when we are using it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we would very much like to hear your thoughts and feedback. So please, at any time, just write to support@engineresearch.com. That is our central point for all support or service related problems. We have a turnaround time, generally speaking, of 24 hours, but at the very worst, you should not have to wait more than 48. It's also on the chat, so you can write here anytime. And generally speaking, as I said, within a day, you'll either get a resolution or you'll get some kind of plan of how we're going to solve.
All right.
There's another question. How could be security overlapping is helpful by seeing overlapping for the particular month? The portfolios might change monthly, so overlapping.
Yeah, so when you look at portfolio position overlap, this is showing you the latest portfolio of each fund and which of them are common. Of course, now as we get new data as we move through the next month, these will be updated. In fact, we'll to make this clearer, we'll also put some. We can note this down. We can put a date under the fund name, so it's clear which date the fund is for. The reason it's useful is that it can give you an idea of how two different fund managers are approaching the market, right? Because if the overlap is quite high between two, let's say two large cap funds from two different AMCs, it gives you an idea that these two AMCs are actually moving very, very close to each other, especially in mid cap and small cap, where the choice of stocks is much bigger. If you get a high overlap, that means that you should probably think about those two investments, because as things stand now, they are very, very similar to each other. There's another question saying where can we compare equity positions held by balance advantage category. So if you want to compare positions held, if you want to compare individual positions, that would be a lot of data and be hard to display. You can obviously bulk download the data. Also in the fund list, there is a section. May I just go to fund list for a second? Yeah, if you scroll right here, then you'll actually see some more details about how much is large cap, mid cap, small cap, etc. But more overall exposure for your particular category, if you load this category.
Any other questions? Okay, so now it's time to close the session. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone to join the session. And we will be having same kind of session again, this training session on the coming Friday again, and the broadcast and the mails will go on the coming Wednesday. Thank you everyone. Till then, goodbye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone. And it was nice, giving you the session. So let's meet up in the next week. Hopefully we can have something fruitful in the next time.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye.